Hello, and welcome to another second grade episode of Math Matters. I'm Mrs. Hale, and today we are going to be learning about place value. During today's lesson, you will be learning to do the following. I am learning to identify the number that is 10 more and 10 less than a given number up to 999, and I'm learning to understand the base 10 relationship between hundreds and tens. You will have an opportunity to reflect on your learning at the end of the lesson. As you are working today, you will also have an opportunity to practice your communication skills by sharing your ideas through writing and creating mathematical representations. Today, you will need pencil and a paper. I'll give you a few minutes to gather what you need. All right, come on back so we can get started. We are going to play same but different. I will show you two pictures, and you have to find ways that the pictures are the same and ways that the two pictures are different. Ready? What do you see that is the same, and what do you see that is different? I'll give you a few seconds to think on your own. Both of these pictures are the same because both are using base 10 blocks. Both pictures are made up of tens and ones. But they're different because the first picture has 3 tens and 1 1, and the second picture has 1 10 and 3 ones. Both pictures show two-digit numbers. The first picture shows 31, and the second picture shows 13. So that's the way they're different. Did you think of any other similarities or differences? Let's try another one. Now look at this one. What do you see that is the same? What do you see that is different? I'll give you a few seconds to think on your own. Both numbers use the digit 7. They are different because 7 is a one-digit number and 17 is a two-digit number. They are the same because in both numbers, 7 is in the ones place. But they are different because the first number, 7, doesn't have any tens, and the second number, 17, has 1 10. They are the same because both are odd numbers. Let's try one last, same but different. What do you see that's the same, and what do you see that is different? I'll give you some time to think on your own. Some ways that these numbers are the same is they're both blue, both have a 4, and both numbers are even. They are different because 4 is in the ones place in the number 4, and in the number 40, the digit 4 is in the tens place. They're also different because 4 is a one-digit number and 40 is a two-digit number. Did you think of any other similarities or differences? Today we will be using what we know about tens and ones to find number patterns and to solve some addition and subtraction quickly and easily because we understand the pattern. In first grade, you began to learn about place value. You learned that 10 ones, like the 10 ones in the box, make up a 10 stick. Our number system is based on patterns of 10. If we can group items into tens, it's easier to count and add and subtract than if we had to count each number by ones. We are going to play how many. The number will change by groups of 10. Sometimes we will add 10 or groups of 10, and sometimes we will subtract 10 or groups of 10. Use your pencil and paper to write down the end number each time. You can draw the 10 sticks too if it helps you. Remember that a 10 stick is just a straight line. All right, our start number is 10. We are going to change by adding 10. So what will be the ending number? Added 10, so our end number is 20. Let's do some more. Now our start number is 20. We're going to add 20. So our end number is 40. How did you do? Let's keep going. Our start number is 40. We're going to add 30. What will our end number be? Our end number is 70. Now our start number is 70. We are going to change by taking away 10. What will be our end number? We end with 60. Now we start with 60. We're going to add 30. Where will we end? $90. Now we start at 90. We're going to change by subtracting 20. So we'll take away 2 groups of 10. Where do we end? 70. What is staying the same and what is changing as we go through these? Start to notice that. All right, we're still starting at 70. We're going to add 30. Where will we end? We end at 100. Now our start number is 100. We're going to take away 20. There they go. Where will we end? 80. Number patterns, adding or subtracting tens. Look at the numbers you've written down. What stayed the same and what changed? Why do you think that is? You should have noticed that only the tens place was changing each time. The tens place the ones place stayed the same at 0 every time. Why do you think that is? Only the tens place is changing because we were only adding or subtracting tens. We weren't changing the ones place at all, so that stayed the same the entire time. Now let's explore how many tens there are in 3-digit numbers. Count by tens to 100. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. How many tens make up 100? And what patterns do you notice in how our numbers are changing? Two patterns that you may have noticed are we make a jump of 10 with each count. The digit in the tens place is getting bigger by 1 each time. We add 10. Look at the blue tens place as it moves across the row. Do you see how the digit is growing? The value of each number is growing by 10. That is why it takes 10 jumps of 10 to make 100. Let's keep counting by tens up to 200. 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. How many tens make 200? There are 20 tens in 200. Do you notice the patterns that are staying the same? We're still counting by tens as we move across the rows, and the digit in the tens place is still getting bigger by 1 each time. Is there anything different or any new patterns that you see? If there are 10 tens in 100 and 20 tens in 200, how many tens do you think there would be in the numbers 130, 150, and 180? I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. So how many tens in 130? Well, there are 10 tens in 100, and then 110, 120, 130 is 3 more tens. So that makes 13 tens. What about in 150? How many tens are in 150? Well, there are 13 tens in 130. So 14 tens would make 140, and 15 tens would make 150. What are you thinking about 180? How many tens are in 180? There are 18 tens in 180. Let's keep our counting going. We're going to count from 210 up to 300 by tens. 210, 220, 230, 240. Pause. What number do you think will be where the question mark is? Let's check. If you said 270, you are right. After 240 would be 250, then 260, 270, 280, 290, and 300. So we know that it takes 10 tens to make 100 and 20 tens to make 200. How many tens does it take to make 300? It takes 30 tens to make 300. We are still counting by tens as we move across the rows, and the digit in the tens place is still getting bigger by 1 each time. But there might be some new patterns that you're starting to see. You might be starting to notice a pattern in the vertical columns. All of the numbers in the first column have a 1 in the tens place. 10, 110, 210. All of the numbers in the fourth column have a 4 in the tens place. 40, 140, 240. Each column has its own pattern for the tens place. You might also be starting to notice that the columns are growing by 100. 100 to 200 is growing by 100. And 200 to 300 is growing by 100. But so is 70 to 170 is adding 100. And 170 to 270 is also adding 100. Do you see that happening in any other columns? Yes, it's the same pattern in every column. So let's continue counting our tens. We already checked out tens in 130, 150, and 180. How many tens do you think there are in 220, 260, and 290? I'll give you a minute to think. We know that there are 20 tens in 200. So 200, 210, 220 is 2 more groups of 10. So that is 22 groups of 10. What about 260? If we know there are 22 groups of 10 in 220, then there are 23 groups of 10 in 230, 24 groups of 10 in 240, 25 groups of 10 in 250. So in 260, there must be 26 groups of 10. How can we use that to help us figure out how many tens are in 290? There are 29 groups of 10 in the number 290. Here is our number chart up to 600. It would be a good idea for you to practice counting by tens starting at different hundreds, but we are going to continue looking for our patterns of tens. So far we have figured out that there are 10 tens make 100, 20 tens make 200, 30 tens make 300, so how many tens do you think make 400? If you said 40, you are right. How many tens do you think make 500? 50 tens make 500. And how many tens make 600? 60 tens make 600. Now let's try with some other numbers. How many tens in 330? There are 33 tens in 330. How many tens in 360? There are 36 tens in 360. How many tens in 420? There are 42 tens in 420. Are you finding a pattern? The number of tens is the same as the first 2 digits in our 3-digit numbers. How many tens in 480? There are 48 tens because it takes 40 tens to make 400 and then 8 more tens to make the 80. So 48 groups of 10. How many tens in 530? Well, we know it takes 50 tens to make 500, and then we need 3 more tens to make 30. So there are 53 tens in 530. And the last one, how many tens in 570? There are 57 tens in 570. How did you do? Now let's see how this is useful. Let's try our understanding of the relationship between tens and hundreds. The high school band is going to sell donuts to raise money for new uniforms. They want to sell 260 donuts, and donuts come in boxes of 10. How many boxes should they get? Well, we know that 1 box of donuts equals 10 individual donuts. What would 260 look like using base 10 blocks? Try it on your paper. I'd have 200 blocks and 6 10 sticks to make 260. So how many 10s is that? We have 10 10s in 100, 10 10s in the next 100, and 6 10s in 60. So that's a total of 26 10s. How did you do? We're going to try one more. The art teacher wants to buy new paintbrushes so that every student in the school gets a paintbrush. If there are 574 students in the school, how many boxes of 10 should he buy? How many more will he still need? We know that one box of paintbrushes is the same as 10 individual paintbrushes. So what would 574 paintbrushes look like using base 10 blocks? Try it on your paper. I have 570 in 7 10s and 4 1s for 574. Now, how many 10s are there in this whole group? We know that there are 10 10s in each 100, so that would be 50 10s in the hundreds. We have 7 individual 10 sticks. So how many 10s is that in all? There are 57 boxes of paintbrushes and 4 more single brushes so that every student in the school gets a paintbrush. Now let's reflect on your learning. How did you do today working towards our learning goals? Thumbs up, I got it. Thumbs in the middle, I'm still practicing, or thumbs down, I still need some help. I'm learning to identify the number that is 10 more and 10 less than a given number up to 999. And I'm learning to understand the base 10 relationship between hundreds and tens. As you think about the learning goals for today, maybe there's something you learned that you don't want to forget. Or maybe there's something you'd like to talk with your teacher about. Take a minute to record your reflections on today's lesson and save them for the next time you have a chance to check in with your teacher. In today's episode of Math Matters, we learned about place value. Take some time to practice counting by tens from different hundreds, or count by tens all the way to 1,000. See if your counting follows the same rules and patterns that we explored today. I'm Mrs. Hale. I hope you have a great day and keep on counting.